So hello everyone watching this video. Some of you may have been watching my channel before and you're used to having me or hearing me speaking Swedish. But today we have a special opportunity with my friend Hans here today. And so, yeah, we're gonna be speaking English today in this video. So bear with us. As I said, some of you have been watching and following my videos for a while. I've been doing videos here on YouTube for about two and a half years or something like that. And I am a spiritual teacher, I guess you could say, an intuitive guide. I teach about metaphysics. I teach about emotions and thoughts, how to get yourself from various states of unhappiness to happiness and all of that jazz, basically. So yeah, so today we're trying out something new, which is this sort of format of casual discussion and sharing perspectives and asking questions. And yeah, I'm very excited. So yeah, so why don't you introduce yourself to us and say whatever you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name is Hans-Peter Szameit, and I am the co-founder and director of an international art school in Szameit. We're located in Szameit now. We were in Stockholm before, but we moved down here, Westerland. And I'm passionate about the law of attraction, and it's changed my life, and I'm very curious about it, and I've been studying it for quite a while. And in the course of how I ended up here with you is that in the course of a conversation with a friend and her acquaintance, she just happened to mention you, and I said, oh, send me a link. And she did that, and I started watching you, and I found it really interesting. And of course, I had lots of questions because there is a little bit of a difference in perspective. And from what I'm sort of studying, or with what resonates with me, and with what you're teaching. And so I had some questions for you, and so I reached out to you. And then we decided to sort of, because I'm probably not the only person with these kinds of questions, that we could sort of maybe open this up and have a discussion like this, which I think is really fun.
Yeah.
Just a quick sort of where I'm coming from is I found through various roads a teacher or a teacher of law of attraction, several you might say, that really resonates with me, and I know it like in my marrow. It's right. It's true. And so then, but I also know that I don't know what I don't know. So I'm open, and I know there's a lot more out there. And so I'm very curious to see how what you say and what's working for you clearly, because it's so different. I want to see how we can't I want to see if we can't or if I can't make sense of it from my perspective, because it seems so opposite.
Yes.
We'll see when we start talking a little bit.
So basically, what brought us here was a conversation about the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And I know many of you who are watching this video are probably familiar with the concept, but I thought maybe I should just give you a quick introduction to what it actually is, for those of you who've never heard it before. So the idea of the law of attraction is that it is an observable universal law that builds upon the fact that everything in existence is vibrating energy, which frequency decides what form of form and shape and matter it will be. So the law of attraction is this universal law that dictates that like frequencies are constantly drawn towards each other, and frequencies that are too unlike cannot share the same space and time. And so this means a lot of things. This simple relation that energy has to itself means a bunch of things. And we could talk about that for weeks, right? However, shortly, what this means for you as a person is that everything that you are, your thoughts and your emotions, your physical body, your memories, everything that you are, because as we know, you're not just physical matter, you're also your not as dense emotions and thoughts and all of these things. So everything that you are begins to shape around you as your reality, as a mirror to that vibration that you hold within you. This means if I'm thinking a positive thought, now something in my reality will mirror that thought, or the frequency of that thought. And so when you begin to learn about the law of attraction, you begin to learn how important it is to care for your own vibration, so to speak, because it literally creates your reality. And through this knowing, yeah.
I just want to say, you use the word mirror. Do you think, is that just like, it mirrors it, but isn't that what you're attracting?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
So, right. It's, in a sense, your reality is a mirror of your vibration.
Yes.
If that's what I'm understanding you correctly.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm.
So
right, yeah.
it's the same thing. If I hold a frequency or a mix of a bunch of different frequencies or vibrations within me, they attract like frequencies. That means that the vibration I hold is going to attract the similarity of that vibration. And so by default, it is going to be my mirror, because now I can watch myself and my own vibration through that external reality. And so that's why, yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I've never thought of it that way, as a mirror, as a reflection of what I'm vibrating, but of course it is. I mean,
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And this is where we get into the interesting stuff, because it's this perspective that sort of seemingly separated what we were talking about in our conversation at first. Because if I look at it this way, that my thoughts are attracting my reality. And so every new thought I'm thinking is attracting stuff, is creating my reality. Of course, then it becomes very important to me to think thoughts that represent the type of reality that I want to create. Think thoughts that create the type of emotion I want to feel, and the type of emotion that will create the reality.
Right. Conscious thoughts.
The conscious new thought.
Right.
However, you are not just what you are conscious of. You are not just only that new conscious thought that you're thinking. You are also everything that you are not. You don't know it exists yet. That's what the subconscious
You're the sum of all your experiences and all of that, right? And that's who you are. All right.
And
okay. Just 1 second though, because back to sort of the things that we agree on, right?
Yes.
The basics, that everything is vibration, everything is energy, that like attracts like, not this opposite attracts necessarily. That can seem true, but there's reasons why and all that, but like attracts like. One way it helps, because I'm a pretty logical person and maybe even cynical sometimes about, I don't buy everything, and I really kind of analyze it. But really, I think for some people, to help people understand this, if they're still kind of thinking this is pretty weird, is that if you think about any object, whether it's a stone or a carrot or a human being, when you start sort of breaking it down, going deeper and deeper, into cells and into atoms and into all this, what you end up at, in whatever you're looking at, you end up with energy. It just keeps going and going and going until it's energy, which is waves, which is a frequency. And so that's what you were talking about. And then it's a frequency of a carrot or a rock or a human or whatever, right? So it is all energy. And that sort of maybe helps people understand that, everything is energy. We're vibrational beings. That's all we are. And it's like tuning on a radio station or something like that. Not many people use a radio with a tuner anymore, but still the concept kind of works that, you can't tune to a radio station on a certain channel and pick up something else. It's going to come in, and what you're tuned to is what you get. And there's, like you said, there's no space for anything else. And so it's important that we make an effort, and it takes some effort, I think, to get your vibration in a certain place or to keep it in a certain place. So all of that's cool. We agree with all of that.
This is cool.
But
until
it's all
Tell me where your sort of questioning is about the subconscious creation.
Easy. I get that we have subconscious thoughts, or that there are things that are underneath our sort of conscious awareness. They're just below the surface. And that they exist, that they're there. And because they exist, they probably have some kind of their energy, and therefore they have some attractive power. I have a real difficulty with accepting that they have, I think you even said, there are a primary attractive power in our experience over our conscious thinking. That they're that powerful. If you're not consciously aware of them or focused upon them, then I can't see them as having that much attractive power at all, because you're not aware of them. And so this idea that this thing that I'm not aware of somewhere back in my experience or life is then shaping my reality in a significant way. Now, just let me say one other thing, because this is maybe where we can sort of meet, maybe, is when if you go looking for something, some past trauma, experience, whatever subconscious thought you're looking for, you'll find it. I mean, law of attraction will show it to you. If that's what you're looking for and you expect it to be there, you'll find it. And then, but now it's conscious. Now you're consciously focused on it. And now it has power. Your focus gives it power because your attention is turned there. That's what you're vibrating. That's what you're living again. And so I'll let you speak. So touch on some of those things then.
So first of all, I want to say the reason I may be saying that your subconscious is primarily the thing creating your reality. It's not that the things you're subconscious of has more or less power. The only difference is that you're conscious or unconscious of it. It's that such a large degree of the average human being is made up of the subconscious, that of what you're not conscious of, so to speak.
Can you define subconscious for me, please? Because in one sense, a person might say their subconscious is their greater self, their inner being, their soul, whatever. You know,
yeah.
It's okay. Well, then I agree with that too, but I don't think it's.
Your subconscious is everything that you do not currently hold within your conscious perspective. You literally don't know yet that it exists. So I have a sort of a metaphor for this, if you're interested.
Yeah, of course.
One of these old pranks that people used to do, and they put like a note on people's back, and they said like, kick me, or like, I'm an idiot, or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say I have a friend. You put this on my back. I have this note on my back now. Now, the interesting thing about your psyche is that this can exist on my back at the very same time that I have no idea it is there. Now, the subconscious itself is, in fact, you could say an illusion, because there are always parts of me that knows that this thing is there. But from this perspective, this portion of my consciousness, I do not know that it exists. Still, the thing that exists on my back is going to interact with my reality. And so I may be having people kicking me or laughing at me or whatever. And so
you're saying the sign that you're not aware of is attracting kicks.
Yes.
But see, I can't. I don't know if I can.
This is the metaphor. This is the metaphor. This is a literal sign that people can see, right? But still, they are able. Okay, this is the question I have. Do you agree with me that they can see your note and they can interact with you through that note, even though you have no idea from this portion of your consciousness that it exists?
I'm not sure that I do, because let me give you a metaphor. Yeah, because listen, if I'm living my life and someone is saying horrible things about me behind my back, they're spreading rumors, saying ugly untruths, lies, whatever, just awful things. If I'm not aware of it, it does not affect my experience. Someone could be doing those things right now for all I know, but I'm not aware of it and it's not affecting my experience.
But here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. You can have the note on your back. Other people can see it. They can interact with it. But the sort of space you are in is that you're experiencing the people laughing at you or the people kicking you. So you're experiencing that portion of your reality. However, you do not, the only thing you're not conscious of is the thing that created that reality. So the metaphor is you can be consciously aware of people bullying you, or people being mean towards you, or people leaving you, or people abandoning you, or all of these things. The thing you're not conscious of is the vibration within you that created it. And this is the space that leaves people so confused, because it's like they cannot see currently how it is correlating to a vibration within themselves.
But isn't that dangerously close to sort of a victim mentality? I'm not aware of this thing and it's causing all this grief or suffering in my life, like it's not my fault or something. I'm this victim of this thing I don't even know about. What can I do about it? I have to go looking for it, dig it up, relive it, put out more of that vibration, attract more of that to me in the process.
Would you agree with me though, that it's possible for you to see how something is created within your reality and be conscious of it and observe it with at the same time as you're empowering yourself as to, I can change it. I can also be with myself in that experience. Maybe what I need to feel right now is being unconditionally present with the aspect of me that currently feels like a victim. And this is what we're probably going to get into more later in this video, I think.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you can play with my analogy and help me see that, because this is what I would say. If I was, let's say I'm living my life and someone's saying awful things about me and I'm not aware of it, but I start to become aware of it. I start to notice people giving me looks, mm-hmm. or turning away from me, or do, whatever. I start to see these things. I would say that it's because other things that I've been focused on consciously that have attracted that that have made that become into my awareness. So maybe I've been thinking, maybe I've been feeling down on myself. Maybe I've been feeling other negative emotions that the essence of which are equal to noticing these mirrors, you might say, of certain reactions from people. Why are those people showing? People aren't treating me very nice. What's happening? Why is that happening? But it's not because of any awareness of this business going on, which really doesn't affect me, but because I've been thinking other things about myself. I've been down on myself about this or that, or feeling sense of unworthiness or whatever, right? And therefore, that is allowed into my experience. So the sign on the back isn't the cause of people kicking me. It's the fact that I was feeling kind of worthless, and that, of course, then allowed me to experience the kick, which, yes, is because of the sign for the person who kicked me, but for me, it's because I was feeling worthless. And someone kicked me and confirmed that.
But the thing is, the thoughts and the emotions of unworthiness that you're feeling can exist within you in two different ways. You can be conscious of it and it exists. And it can exist also at the same time as you're conscious of it. So the universe or your reality or whatever, it doesn't care if you're conscious of it or unconscious of it. It just sees vibration. And so we can sort of accept that both my conscious new thoughts and new emotions and anything that I'm conscious of, not just new things either, but anything I'm conscious of and the stuff I'm not conscious of, are both equally creating my reality according completely to its own.
I wouldn't say equally though. How can it be equal? I mean, an unconscious thought can't have the attractive power of a focused conscious awareness and thought. Focused energy is much more powerful.
There.
It's equally there, but listen, it's
there.
like
the only difference is you do not consciously have conscious awareness of it.
Yeah, but the conscious awareness makes all the difference. Conscious focus is much more powerful than some underlying, slowly vibrating subconscious thought, whereas a conscious thought is a much faster vibration, and therefore more powerful. I feel like if you turn your focused attention on the unconscious thought or whatever it is, then of course it gives it power. It's sort of like that unconscious or subconscious thought you're talking about is like a tuning fork. You know what a tuning fork is, right? Like in music,
Yeah.
the little tuning forks, right? And it's there, it exists, it has a certain vibration, but it's not expressing that vibration until it's activated. And when you activate it by turning your attention to it, by striking it, and then it vibrates in its frequency, and other things in the same, other tuning forks that are tuned to it start to vibrate too. But until it's there, it exists, but until it's active, it's not really vibrating as powerfully as a conscious thought. So I don't understand.
I agree with you that higher vibrating thoughts are more powerful in the sense that it has a quicker manifestation to it. But let me paint you this picture. So you are a complex being because you have many layers of your existence. Some of these layers of you can see and touch. You can touch your nose, you can touch your hands, but you have layers to your beings that you can't see and touch in a physical way. And one of these things are the emotional layers of your being and the mental layers of your being, we could call it. Mm-hmm. And so let's say you're 2 years old. You experience something that make you think a negative thought about your reality that creates a painful emotion. Now, in this moment when you're 2 years old, you do not find a way as a 2-year-old to manage or cope with this emotion. So the only choice you have of surviving in that moment is to suppress the emotion. And so now the emotion is within your emotional layer still. You're beginning to be less and less conscious of it. So here's the interesting part. I am an intuitive being. And so I have the ability to watch this layer within people. And when you're in that, yes, or sense.
Sense it. Or okay.
Well,
okay.
That's a complex subject in and of itself. But
right.
And so the interesting part is technically what's going on is that it's sort of like a painting, that whole layer within a person. And so within this painting is all of these trapped emotions of shame or anger or pain or emptiness and all of these different things. And so this painting, some of these parts, again, you can be conscious of, some of them you're not conscious of because you've suppressed it to the point where it's no longer in your conscious awareness, right? So this painting, so to speak, of the collaboration of all of these emotions and thoughts, they are creating your reality. And once again, you can be stuck in the space where you cannot see where it is coming from or the vibration within yourself that is creating a specific form of reality. However, here's the interesting thing. So the argument for people who are saying we shouldn't be giving attention to negative things within us because it activates it.
Right.
You have to understand that it is there all of the time. All of the time it is there, even though it vibrates slower and manifests things more slowly than a super high vibration. It is still there. It is still energy. It is existing technically, literally within your field, here and now. And so it is interacting with your reality. And so,
right, but such a small degree, Ellen, to such a small degree. It's like, yeah.
Depends on the vibration. It can be to a very small degree. If negative emotions aren't that, of a big amount, so to speak, it's going to be at a small degree. It's an exact mirror of whatever is going on within you. So if you have a lot of pain, not so much pain, not so much pain.
Okay, all right.
Joy.
But do you think it would be possible then for someone with the mental discipline, right, to focus consciously to such a degree, to ignore those things that are not that in their conscious awareness, right, to ignore them and to focus intently on what they do want in their life, right, and have a good life. And these things will, like a muscle that isn't used, just sort of atrophy. And because they're not focused on, they're there, but like a tool you don't use, they'll get rusty, it'll rot, it'll fall into disrepair, disuse, because the tension is no longer there.
I
And the things
understand your point.
that are dominant are the things that you're focusing on, the forward direction, the forward momentum.
I understand your point. And here's the interesting part about your consciousness. It's that your consciousness, in the moments that you become traumatized, let's call it, or you decide within you that I am no longer going to be this part within me. I'm no longer going to be this emotion and thought because I am not capable of handling it right now, so I suppress it. Mm-hmm. It's that your consciousness actually begin to fracture, is what a lot of spiritual teachers term it. And so your consciousness begin to split. And so now, because of this division within yourself, because I said, here's this part of me, I'm no longer going to be that part of me on a metaphysical level, not on a third dimensional physical level, but on a metaphysical level. These streams of consciousness exist within different points of time and space, which is very complex in a grounded conversation to grasp. But so what's going to happen within you is that you have a bunch of different parts within you that feel different emotionally, think differently. They even have different personalities in different cases. And so this can vary from person to person. Some people have very, very strong divisions within themselves. And so when this happens is that you're going to experience shifts in between these different parts. And so this is why for many people, they can have a depression just fall down upon them when they're 25 and they have no idea it's correlated to their childhood, because that part of them haven't been in their dominant experience until this point. And this is why, healing yourself should be of priority, so to speak. It's because even though I'm living these 5 years in this part of myself and I'm fine, I'm feeling good, which is awesome. There's nothing wrong with feeling good. However, the 6th year, so to speak, you may have another part of you being ready to come up and be seen that has been suppressed and divided from you your whole life, right? And so now this part of you, let's say consists of pain, now becomes the focal point of your experience. It was always there within your structure on a metaphysical plane. It's just that now it's coming into your conscious awareness. So I agree with you that there's no need to force ourselves or push ourselves to find those things within us if we feel fine here and now, and if we're experiencing a reality that we want to experience. However, these parts of you that are not resolved, that are now existing within a unhealthy or painful state, are going to search itself in some form back into integration, because your being is driven towards love, integration, wholeness, happiness, unconditional love, all of these things. And so if you want, you have all the possibilities in the world to design how you want to live your life. And so you can live your life, as you're saying, just enjoying your conscious thinking and enjoying the reality it's creating. However, when the other stuff are pushing or knocking on the door, well, maybe we can look at that, because then that's the door. Yeah.
Don't answer the door. Just ignore it.
Here's the thing. Can I just explain? I know I'm speaking a lot right now.
No, it's fine.
This is pain within you, right? So this pain was essentially created by a thought you had about an experience. So this happened when you were 2, let's say.
Okay.
Now this pain was suppressed. It's called. And because it felt emotionally dangerous for you to deal with it at that point in time. So now it exists technically within your structure. It's just that it's not potentially your focal point of your experience right now. Your being is driven towards wholeness, integration, happiness, love, all of these things. Just as like your body is driven towards keeping itself intact. That's why it feels painful when you break a leg or something, right? Mm-hmm. So this part of me now comes to the surface. It's knocking on my door, right? Here it is. Now, people who are only saying, I am only going to accept myself in my positivity, because I am creating my reality and I only want to create positive things, right? The vibration that we are creating in this state is, I do not approve of you. I don't want you here. I fear you. I hate you. I don't want to be you. I do not approve of you. What vibration is this? It's resistance and it is fear. And that is the vibration you're now creating that is creating your external reality. Now, what's the difference if I'm doing this? I accept you. It's okay for you to be here. I love you. I can accept you. I want to be you. Or not necessarily I want to be the pain, but it's okay.
Yeah, I understand. Right.
Now I'm actually in a vibration of unconditional love, acceptance, allowing, trust, all of these states. And that is the vibration I am now creating. And I want to also make a point that often when we talk about the law of attraction, we're describing it in a way that it's like a single thought creates your reality, or a single emotion creates your reality. But also the relationship you have within these parts of yourself creates your reality. So this means that if I have one part here and one part here that are in war with each other, then that war, this relationship, is going to mirror within my reality. So if I am saying to these parts of myself that is pushing itself up to the surface to be seen and healed and integrated and, resolved, and I'm saying, I don't accept of you, I don't approve of you, I hate you, I fear you, I resist you. Now I'm creating a reality of other people who are also going to say to me, I am not going to be with you in your tough times, man. I will not love you in those times. I will resist you, I will push you away. I'm not going to be there for you. And so, though, this is how our relationship to ourselves begin to mirror. And so wouldn't it be wonderful to have a reality where you can be free to say, I can choose my conscious thoughts into whatever new experience I want to have. I can choose whatever new thing I want to create. But I can also accept myself and unconditionally meet and love myself within my tough times and within my pain and within the things that need to be seen. Because if I do that, then I will also create a reality that will unconditionally love me, because that is what unconditional love is. I am loving you no matter what you are.
Right. A couple things that I want to talk about. When that comes knocking on the door, it's no longer subconscious.
Yes.
Now it's a conscious thing.
Yes.
Because now your attention, it's knocking, you hear it, you're aware of it, however it comes into your awareness. But now it's conscious. So it wasn't bothering you until it came into your conscious awareness.
It was bothering you. I'm going to explain why.
Okay. Anyway, all right. So it's knocking, and now you're aware of it. I agree with you that saying, I don't want this, I don't like you, I know who you are, and I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, I don't like you, etc. That's resistance, absolutely. The universe does not hear no, it doesn't, it just hears what you're putting out. So if you're focused on it, whatever it is, that's the vibration you're putting out. So there is no exclusion. You can't push anything away. You can only invite it in, right? So, but you can focus on it that way with resistance. You can focus on it in a positive way somehow, which I think is probably challenging for most people, but possible. Or you can ignore it. Now, some things are difficult to ignore, but you could ignore it. You could say, it's not saying I don't love you, or it's not pushing against it by just saying, this thing is knocking. I'm aware of what it is. It doesn't feel good. So I don't want to go there. I'm going to shift my focus to other things. And it's not a denial of the thing. It's a denial of the emotion or the vibration. I'm not going to be in a place or acknowledge something that's negatively going to affect me negatively, that feels bad. Because that's my guidance system. My emotions are saying, this doesn't feel good. Don't go there. Do something, think of something else. You're not in alignment with your greater self. So now shift your focus to what is positive, what is working, what is good, what you do want, not this thing that you don't seem to want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and this is when we can begin to make a point of how do we turn to this pain? How do we deal with this pain? Because we can...
By ignoring it.
Well, that's resistance.
It's not resistance.
Because the pain is pushing. This is the, how do you say this in English? This is a force. This is a force. It's a movement towards integration. Anything that's a movement that we are stopping is resistance. This is what resistance is.
Well, I guess we have to sort of agree on the fact that it's, first of all, that there's this desire to integrate everything, and that if it's pushing, and I can absolutely, I'm a human being, right? I mean, so I understand that there are things that we've lived that we carry with us, that pain and trauma, as you call it, or whatever, that keep bubbling up from, something that we see or hear or watch or smell or whatever, right? All these things can then trigger this negative feeling. And so I get that. And you call that, I think, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's sort of like it's pushing itself into our awareness.
Yes.
Right? Because now I've seen this thing, saw this movie, heard this comment, heard this song, whatever, and now I'm feeling this thing again, and that makes me feel melancholy, regret, shame, whatever. Okay, negative things. So that's, you would say, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is that trauma, that suppressed, I don't know if I would even call it a suppressed thing. It's just something that you've lived that was shitty, that was awful, and that you just said, okay, I lived that. That was that, and now, time to move on. It hurt. Maybe I'm scarred. I have emotional scars, you might say. That was painful, but that doesn't define me. I mean, I can move on from that. I can then say, now what? Now what? Here I am. Okay, now what? What am I going to focus on? That's always the question. What am I going to focus on? If I'm going to sort of, there's this thing knocking, maybe I should, go back to that. I heard the song, made me think of that relationship, whatever, and now I'm back there and feeling all the pain of it, or of that particular aspect, of that relationship, whatever. And now I'm supposed to go and wallow in that for a while and accept it and say, what? But then I'm vibrating that, and law of attraction, as you said, it's not really caring about you in the sense that it's perfectly consistent. It will deliver what you're vibrating. And if you're focused on something negative, that past trauma, it's going to say, okay, here's more of that. Here's more of that. More thoughts, more feelings, more experiences to line up with what you're thinking about, what you're focused on.
So I want to give you this. What if you can have both? You can look at the pain that's pushing forward towards wanting to be integrated and connected back to you. Mm-hmm. Which is not the pain wanting to be one with you. The pain wants to be disappeared. It's just that parts of your consciousness stream is trapped in that pain, so to speak. And it is that consciousness stream that is you that's wanting to be whole again. So what was I going to say? So you can have
both, you said.
Both. You can have, okay, I'm looking at this pain. I'm looking at what this pain believes about me, which is a negative, false, we could say, statement of some sort. And I can have that. I can say, I don't want to be whatever that pain tells me to be. I don't want to live my life like this, right? But then I can also have that I can do whatever works for me to release that pain from my being so that it won't keep knocking. Because here's the thing about resisting this pain. If I'm resisting it and pushing it away or ignoring it or saying, I'm going to focus on something else, it's still going to be here. Technically, it's still energy.
Notice.
And so it's going to keep coming up. So I might as well deal with it.
Yeah, but I get that. But isn't that just sort of, what we've come to believe that sort of doesn't take into account the law of attraction? Like we have to sort of wrestle these problems and deal with all these bad things that have happened. I mean, isn't it logical that dealing with it, you vibrate it, and you're joining that frequency, you're coming down to meet it, and then you're there, and you're going to attract more of that. That's where you're at. Now, I think it's possible. I think it must take some pretty impressive mental discipline, perhaps. And maybe you've got it. Maybe maybe a lot of people do. I'm not sure I do. But to focus on something painful in a positive way, in a way that doesn't sort of take you down there and then make you relive it all and keeps you there, but that you can look at it sort of like, okay, you're a part of me, I love you, and it's all right. I'm okay now. Whatever happened is cool.
So I want to get technical here.
Yeah, do it.
If we're talking about an emotion that's suppressed and that's coming up to the surface, I love my little tools.
Your remote, yeah. Yeah.
So what an emotion is, it's energy in motion, right? So an emotion is temporary energy that's responding to something, your thought.
It doesn't really have creative power. It's just an indicator.
Yeah, it's an indicator.
Right.
But so the emotion, the purpose of the emotion, so to speak, is not to stay there forever, because it is always a response to your focus. So whether that's joy or something painful or whatever. So when we're talking about a suppressed, pushed away emotion that's wanting to be resolved, I'm not saying that you have to necessarily indulge yourself into darkness forever. If we're talking just about the emotion, it just wants to move through you. And the only thing that's keeping it away from doing that is your own resistance. And that resistance can again be subconscious and very automatic. And it can be conscious, as in, nope, I'm seeing it consciously, I don't want it, goodbye. So the only thing this emotion needs is for you to just be and allow. Do you see that it's the resistance that's hard? That's the hard work, really. Pushing something away all the time. The easy thing is to just let go and let the emotion flow through you. And when you're doing that, you're temporarily going to experience that pain. But then it's going to be gone, because the only thing it ever wanted since you were 2 years old was to move through you properly. But we stopped that process when we suppressed it. And I also want to say something else.
Go for it.
The reason why I think you may be finding yourself in this position as well is because you are now in a phase of your life.
What are you talking about?
Like, I'm going to explain. So you may be, finding yourself in a phase of your life where you genuinely is in a portion of your consciousness that feels good to you. And so therefore it doesn't make sense for you to dive into something, because currently you're not experiencing something pushing its way up to the surface, and you don't have to dive into anything. You can trust the process that whatever comes up to be seen is doing that for a reason at this point in time. And so you can do your thing within this portion of your consciousness, and you can focus these wonderful positive thoughts that creates everything you want to experience. But then when these things come up, which I'm not saying that they will, but they might, that's when you're going to find yourself in this position of either resisting it or allowing it to move through you, that emotion. And so the whole issue of that may not even be relevant to your experience at this point in your life.
Mm-hmm. Sure, but everybody has things that come up now and then. So I think everybody can relate to that. Yeah. But when you talk about it moving through this experience or this pain, I'd rather use the word pain than emotion, because again, I see emotions just as sort of an indication of where you're at vibrationally, not as an energetic thing or something like that. But so you have this trauma, okay, that has bubbled up now and is affecting you, and it doesn't feel good. this can happen again and again and again for people. And I think if I understand it, what you would probably say would be that it's happening because we keep resisting it and pushing it back again. And it comes up and back. And you say it wants to move through or be dealt with in some way. That just sounds like psychoanalysis or something like that. So sort of lay down on the couch, tell me, and these patients keep coming back year after year after year after year. I don't know how effective it really is.
So maybe they're not actually reaching the problem, because that happens a lot. We're not actually, reaching the actual emotion. And so we're not actually resolving anything. So we can
go back that? Go back and sort of curl up in the fetal position and suffer and cry.
So here's the thing.
How positive can that be? Yeah, go ahead.
I want to explain something to you. So we can sort of base what I'm about to say on the premise that there are two different ways of dealing with something. There's a positive way and there's a negative way. So I may, for example, be able to think a positive thought about my pain, such as, it's okay that I experience this. It's not my fault that I experience this, or whatever feels good for us personally, where we are vibrationally. Or I can think a negative thought about that pain, which is, I hate you, I don't accept you, I'm going to push you away, and stuff like this. So then the whole thing for us becomes, well, how do I deal with these things? Or we don't even have to say deal. How do I let these things naturally resolve itself in a positive way? So then
how does that happen?
Yeah.
Paint me a picture of that, of some trauma just sort of naturally dissolving in a nice way.
Yes. So the trauma in and of itself technically consists of a thought and an emotion. The thought is your focus, you're steering your perspective in a certain way that could either be positive or negative.
Would you say a belief?
Yeah, a thought that becomes a belief, a point of perspective, whatever is essentially a thought or a series of thoughts. Mm-hmm. So now this thought creates an emotion that is an indicator of where your focus is. So if I'm focusing myself into, I am a worthless piece of shit, because of some experience that influenced that thinking, now I'm going to feel a negative emotion. So this is the trauma, right? So technically this is what an emotional trauma is. Now, the energy of an emotion and a thought, we can find how to deal with them in the best ways. So the thought is your steering wheel, so to speak, of the perspective you're creating for yourself. And the emotion is the indicator of where that is. So if we can just look at the emotion and say, okay, so the emotion needs to just be and move through me. That's how the emotional part of this trauma is being resolved. Just letting it be, stop resisting it, letting it move through me. It's temporary, it's going to disappear forever. When I say forever, I mean it disappears out of this emotional layer of you forever. And so the thought now is interesting, because the thought was something that you learned most often in childhood that created this emotion. And so this thought is something that we can observe it. We can watch it as something that we are not. It is just a thought that we chose and that we can choose away, so to speak. Now we can look at, okay, what thought would I want to think instead? What would feel better for me to think? Well, do I need to go deeper in how this thought was created? Do I need
is this the process that you're going through in facing down one of these problems? Maybe that's not a good way of saying it, facing down. It's very pushing against, but you know what I mean? Sort of releasing it, let's say. So these are the questions. So now you're facing this trauma. You're 2 years old, you said, and I don't know what happened, but something bad happened. And now there you are, and this has come up, and then you ask yourself, okay, this thing happened. It was painful for me, still is. Then the series of questions you just said, these are things that you ask yourself in the process of releasing this. What would I rather think instead? What would I, et cetera, those sorts of things?
Yes. And so this could be a very personal thing, whatever we need to do to shift that thought. Some people who have very severe trauma, they may need to go a lot deeper into what actually created that thought, because that may be what they need to be able to shift that thought. And other people may just need to observe the thought in order to shift it. So whatever we personally need in order to shift the thought and shift the emotion, that's what we need to find for ourselves, whatever works for a specific type of trauma. And there are billions of techniques and ways to do this. And that's where it gets interesting. And a lot of teachers have many different ways of doing this.
I'm thinking about it. I just somehow don't still quite see, and I'll figure it out, but how it's sort of the logic in knowing how the law of attraction works. Just, I mean, it's it's absolutely consistent, and it's like attracts like. I'm looking at something I don't like. I'm putting out that vibration because I'm immersed in it now, right? That thing that happened when I was 2, whatever.
Yes.
I'm there now. I'm feeling it. It still hurts. I'm putting out that vibration, right? And I'm thinking, and I'm even exploring it. What would I rather think? It's just, this is just a thought, an experience, whatever. All these techniques, and you said there's billions of them, but yes. I'm still sort of facing the thing I do not want, that I do not like, right? It's not a good thing.
But from the perspective of the universe, you are always facing towards that which you don't like, as long as it exists within you. Because it doesn't care what your mental process about it is, so to speak. You're not vibration.
It's behind me. It's the sign on my back that I don't even know is there.
So why does it keep coming up if you're done with it?
Well, I'm not saying I'm done with it, but I have a choice. Every time it comes up, I have a choice.
So what are these choices?
I'll tell you what these choices are, Ellen. I'll tell you. The choices is here I am, I'm living my life, and I get kicked because there's a sign on my back or whatever, right? And I have a choice to, I can ignore the kick. I can say, man, what's his problem? Must be having a bad day, and go on, and not even be a little ripple, nothing, just go on. Or I can say, why did that happen? That was terrible. I didn't deserve that. Who is that guy? What's going on? I can build upon it and spiral downward, right?
And that is how you deal with it in a negative way. This is why it's important to find.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
But what about the first option? Oh, that was strange. Why did I get kicked? Maybe having a bad day. Maybe it was an accident. I don't know. And so I'm just going to go bouncing along.
If it works for you to go ahead straight forward, having things knocking behind your back and saying no, if that works for your happiness, I support you 100%. Okay, I support you 1000% if that works for you. Because I want you to be happy. That's my focal point.
Of course.
I'm not sitting here to be right. I want you to be happy. And so if it personally works for you, then that's what you should do. And this is what emotional intelligence is. It's feeling into how my body and my being reacts to different things that I do and think.
Oh, it wouldn't be hard for me to go there. I don't think that would be hard for anybody. I can dig up something pretty painful pretty quick, I imagine, but why would I want to do that? Because then I'm just there putting out those bad feelings, and the universe is saying, oh, here's some more. Here's some more. Oh, you're feeling like that? Here's some more.
All along as we speak, it's there, creating a reality.
But not at the level of what I'm consciously focused on. And when it does start to create in my level, it's because it's become part of my conscious thinking. It's popped up. It's no longer subconscious. It's there because it exists, just like all the universe exists. And I don't know about it, I don't know everything in it, but then it comes into my awareness. As I turn a corner, I see more things. As I live a new day, I experience more things. And so those things are coming into my awareness. So it's full of stuff I don't know about. That's there. There are people across the world that exist. I've never met them. I don't even know that, know about them, but of course they're there. But when I think about them, when I turn my focus there, that's when it becomes effective in my life.
So we could make a point out of this. If you are not experiencing anything as a reflection to that vibration that feels painful or negative to you in any way, then it's not a problem.
Right.
You don't have to create a problem that doesn't exist. Then be happy, be yourself. You know what I mean? So we can make a point out of that. If it comes up, that's another story. Or if it begins to manifest things that is actually painful and is bouncing back on that painful vibration. But I want you to also think about this. When you encounter pain, so to speak, in childhood or in later of your life, and you begin to suppress, which means dividing your consciousness into this is what I am, this is what I'm capable and comfortable of seeing myself as, this is something I will not be, right? Okay. What happens is a stream of your consciousness is now stuck in this pain. This stream of consciousness, let's say, here's the pain, and here's my stream of consciousness, right? So here's my stream of consciousness being stuck in this pain. This is you.
But
this
how many?
Is your happiness. And as long as your being is divided in that way, this is human suffering. And this can be degrees and varies in forms. But as long as you have a division within yourself, you are not whole within yourself. And this is not going to feel good to you. This is why.
Do you believe that you can ever be whole?
Yes.
I mean, doesn't that defy also contrast? I mean, isn't there always going to be what you want and what you don't want? Things you like, things you don't like.
Here's the thing, yes. Because, well, when we're saying we're being whole, is that when I say it, I don't mean that as in you are finished in learning. Because you come here into this experience to experience contrast and problems and pain in order to gain your consciousness, your plus pole, so to speak. Gain knowledge about yourself and about even navigating yourself through pain or through life, right? This is gaining consciousness. So being whole just means you have division within yourself. There's no war within yourself. But because you still have more things to learn, you're not complete. A higher aspect of you, or even your own thoughts, are going to create new things.
This idea of it's like looking at like we're all flawed beings. Don't you think we're all perfect?
Well, it depends on how you see it. I can look at myself as perfect if I'm in pain, if I'm in whatever I'm in, if I'm in joy. It's just a matter of perspective.
Right.
So I can choose to not see anything within me as flawed if it makes me feel good. Not in an escapist way, but actually feel good.
It's clearly working for you, right? And I'm sure you've helped others too. So I don't doubt that it works or that it's true, but it doesn't, it's still, I'm just trying to sort of wrap my head around it from the perspective that I have, which it sort of defies in a way. And I know that, I mean, ultimately, I know that whatever you believe, you're going to find the proof. And whatever I believe, I'm going to find the proof. And whatever anybody believes about anything, if they believe it, they're going to find the evidence. The universe will provide it. That's just law of attraction. Here you go. Okay, that's what you expected. That's what you believe. Here he is. So I know you're right. And I know I'm right. And I know everybody's right. But I still, but I still want to, because if that's true, what I just said, then it all has to work together too, in a bigger sense, because it's all part of this wonderful universe.
Yes.
And so that's what I'd like to sort of understand more. You say then it's constantly, it never stops knocking at the door.
No, because you are driven towards being whole.
If it's not knocking on the door, then I don't know it's there. Until it starts knocking on the door, that's when I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
And if it's not constantly knocking on the door, then it's not always having an effect in my life. And I could, again, theoretically, and I think you've said as much too, that fine, if you can be successful doing that, ignore it and go on and think happy thoughts and live a great life.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge, you're laughing. I acknowledge that sounds stupid and it's not that simple, but it is about focus, and you can choose to think a thought, and you can choose how you feel about something. And that's basically, I think, what you're saying when you examine a trauma. You choose how to feel about this from a conscious perspective, and then you can make peace with it somehow and release it.
Yes, because you never aim to heal yourself so that it will stay. You always do it so that you will feel better when it's gone. That's why we want to heal ourselves. It's not because I want to be that pain. It's not because I want to be that belief. But we speak about whatever we believe in create our reality. But the belief that our pain is created by is also a belief. It's also just as much as this conscious belief is, even though the higher vibrating beliefs have more power, so to speak.
Right. We can change our beliefs, of course, with some effort. It takes some effort. And again, it depends on how powerful the belief is and how entrenched it is and all of that. But
so
go ahead. I was
just going to say, as a final note, let yourself trust that whenever it comes up into your experience, that is when that potentially is time. And let yourself enjoy your life until then.
Potentially time for what?
To choose between your options.
And the options are examine it, try and release it, right? Face it from a positive perspective.
Yes, whatever feels good.
Right. But it's not going to feel good if you're ever examining something painful.
And this is the complexity of this. It's that emotionally it becomes complex. It's like when you're crying, for example, when you're sad. On one level, it feels good because you're not resisting anything within you. You needed to cry. You needed to let it out. And so on one level, it feels good. On another level, it's sadness. So it doesn't feel good.
Right.
This is part of, connecting to your emotional intelligence. It's learning these nuances, because we could also have the nuance of pain together with resistance. This is terrible. This is some damn suffering right here. This is not a good combination.
Or you could ignore it. Which you would say is pretty much the same thing as just resisting it and pushing it down again.
Here's the thing. Yes, if it's moving your direction and you're pushing against it, it's by definition resistance. However, I also want to make the statement that when you are aware of all of these things, it's possible to do whatever you want to do with this. So let's say, for example, I have pain. I know it exists here. But today, I want to go ahead and be happy and do this. And so then I can use my focus to focus myself into a positive state, not because I want to escape this, but because I want to currently experience this and then potentially come back into feeling that emotion and letting it move through me and stuff like that. So we have infinite potential of navigating ourselves through all of these things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little, I want to sort of clarify this thing about resisting, ignoring it being resisting, and that, if someone's knocking on your door and you just let them knock, it's not you going up to the door and saying, go away. It's you just putting on the headphones and listening to some music and you forget about it. So how is that resistance? It's just letting it go.
It's resistance whenever you are resisting what naturally wants to happen. So if the emotion naturally wants to be felt, you're resisting it when you're saying, I'm not going to feel it. If the belief is saying, I want you to change me, let's say, that's what your being wants you to do. That's why it comes up. And you're saying, I'm putting on my headphones, I'm not going to listen to you. Now you're in resistance.
Okay, let's just take this into something. Let's forget about 2 years old.
Yeah.
Let's talk about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you're doing something and some person is rude to you, unfairly flips you off, insults you, whatever, just says something uncalled for and hurtful to you. Mm-hmm. Now, feeling the pain of that, okay, just happened. It's fresh. What's the process from your perspective in dealing with that?
Yes. So first we have to acknowledge that there was something within you that created that experience.
Right. Why not track that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so we could also then say what created something in your reality could be a new thought that you thought now at this point in time, so to speak, just now. Yeah, or it could be something that exists within you from before, right?
Right.
And so if it's a new emotion that comes up, it's not a suppressed emotion that comes up from before, then we have to look at, well, what thought am I currently thinking that's creating this new thing? Because it's this current thought that's going to create a new current emotion that's going to feel better. And this is the complexity of understanding your emotional life. It's differentiating between, well, what is my current thought that's creating this new emotion? What is my old emotions that wants to be felt, and all of these things. And we're going to learn this by trying out and just like coming into connection with it.
I mean, how far back do you go? So this guy was an idiot to me or whatever, just was rude to me. And I'm thinking, like, why did I track this into my experience? What have I been thinking, or how have I been feeling, or what was, how far do I have to go back? I mean, I could say, well, yesterday I was getting angry about something, and now I've attracted anger into my experience. Mm-hmm. Or do I say, well, when I was 2, I had this trauma and someone was rude to me and I've never forgotten. I mean, how far back do you really have to go?
So something that you can give to yourself is the knowing that all of the information is there. The only difference is you're not potentially conscious of all of it. And so you can make a practice, for example, well, first of all, connecting to your emotions and stuff, but also asking the question, where does this come from? And allowing the answer to show itself to you. Because here's another thing about the law of attraction. When you ask a question, you're tuning yourself in towards receiving the answer to that question. Yeah. And it has to show up. So that's why if
you have to allow it.
Yeah, you have to allow it.
Resist the solution, the answer.
Yeah, exactly. And so
it's always the challenge, is the allowing bit.
Yes,
because
it is.
We're asking all the time, right? We're saying, I like this, I want this, I wish I knew this, and the universe says, here you go, but then we have to let it in, and that's the hard bit.
Yeah,
that's the tough bit. How do you, that's another conversation. How can we be more allowing for everything that's just waiting to pour into us, everything we've asked for?
Yes. So then we could ask ourselves, what are we scared of, really?
Do you think it's all fear-based?
Yeah, because
why?
Behind all of your resistance is your greatest freedom and happiness. because your being is driven towards all of these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
well-being, the universe is well-being based and all of that, but where does the fear bit come in? Why would we be afraid of that?
Well, the base of fear is that we're believing in something that isn't true. And so, for example, when I resist an emotion or a thought, it's the fear of that could be, I believe that I am my emotion. I believe that I am that painful thought, but it isn't true. It's never true. That's
Right.
what pain is. And so we could begin by realizing that whatever I am scared of isn't actually universally true, so to speak. But yeah, that's another concept.
You fear pain. We all fear pain.
Mm.
Is that what you mean by fear? Because I still don't understand how resistance is all about fear. When we're talking about allowing in the abundance, the wellness, the answers, the solutions that we've asked for.
Yeah. So
This is what that keeps it back.
This is what happens in childhood and in this reality when we learn contrast, so to speak. It's that we form twisted beliefs, negative beliefs. So for example, I am 5 years old. I am running around in my house and I'm exuding happiness and positive emotions. But something happened. So let's say someone in my environment makes me feel like that happiness isn't okay. I reject you when I'm not happy. So now what I actually want is to be happy, but I have a twisted or negative or false belief around that happiness or positive emotions, which is I'm going to be rejected when I'm happy. So now that experience and that fear of being rejected again becomes my mission or my intention behind keeping that happiness out of me or out of my experience. And so it's all about poking holes on those false beliefs and those painful, twisted perspectives we get into, which is what we call contrast.
Where does it end, Aylin? I mean,
I don't know. That's the fun part. We don't know.
The fun part. This work that you're doing with yourself and sort of. I mean, because it's a roller coaster every day, right? Emotionally, we live life. And things are good and things are bad or whatever. We like this, we don't like that. Do you, every time you feel negative, go through this sort of process and end up back in your childhood? Or do you just sort of, does it depend on the strength of the reaction that you have? Like this was deep, or this was whatever, the guy flipped me off, whatever. It's just a jerk.
Yeah. So
move on to that. No big deal, but something else cuts.
So the thing that happens is when you do this like a lot, you begin to, learn how to navigate yourself, and eventually it sort of becomes like automatic. But the parameter I go after every time a conflict or something arises is, what do I need to do or think to resolve this? And then I open myself, I allow that question to create the answer that's always there and that has to come when I put myself into that frequency. And so I let my being or that emotion give me that answer as a vibrational match to that questioning. And so that can be different from time to time. Sometimes I don't have to go back, or actually most of the time nowadays, I don't have to go back to when I was 2 years old. I can just, for example, allow the emotion. Or other times I need to go deeper and really understanding what created that belief, because that is what the situation is calling for me to do, so to speak. And this is why I think it's important to, or not even important, but if there's one practice we can give ourselves, it's creating this skill of questioning what what the solution is and what our being calls for us to do, and then trusting the answer that comes. And so for you, that may be, I'm not going to dive into my shit. That may very well be your answer. And then you have to respect and trust that answer.
But isn't it always sort of a backward way of looking in a way? I mean, life is ahead of us. And if you're always going back and not always, but frequently, whatever, isn't it about what's out there, not about what's back there? I understand. I mean, again, we're the sum of our experiences, and, you know, thank you for all of them, you know, but here we are. And now it's what's ahead of us that's important, and what we're going to create. And, you know, it's the worst of all worlds and the best of all worlds. We get to choose where we want to play, where we want to be.
Yeah.
And what we're going to focus on.
Yes, and that is also true. However, in this experience, you are a being that has the potential to push away and suppress and keep negative vibrations within you. And we can choose whatever we want to do in that state. But here's what I want to say, because I think a lot of people are like, well, when does this end? Am I going to have to heal myself forever, or you know, not resisting things that come up forever?
Reasonable question.
Yeah. And so what I want to say to that is that the goal here isn't for us to be in this position forever. As I said, healing is done with the aim, of course, of being happy, you know. But what you're doing when you're healing yourself, or you're shifting whatever vibration within you that represents something you do not want to experience, is that you are removing all of the blockages for your soul stream to move through. So let's say, for example, my being gives rise to the desire that I want to go and be a pilot, right?
Yeah.
When I was 3, all of these ages, but so
Yeah.
something in my life happened that made me create an opposing vibration to this desire. So that can be an action and a thought.
Someone said, oh, you can't be a pilot.
You can't be a pilot. Oh, you're
Girls aren't pilots.
You always fail.
Yeah, right.
Whatever.
Any number of things. Right. Okay, so there's that.
So it's this whatever opposing vibration to this desire. Okay. So now I'm stuck, see? Because this is now creating my reality if it's more dominant. And so when I'm healing myself or shifting myself, this is only ever the process of removing the blockages for whatever in my newest moments to move through. And this stream is always going to search for challenge and blah blah anyway, but it's not going to be done out of this block. Yeah.
Once you create a desire or an intent, it exists forever. I mean, it's there.
There's no blockage, and that's the difference.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Every thought
I want a new relationship. It's going to manifest because you have no opposing vibration.
Right. Every thought exists forever, right? Every thought that's been thought exists. It's kind of a weird concept to think about. And then thoughts think them, you know, so it gets crazy. But, you know, so that resistance that I guess I like the word that you say shift, because it's not, because it also still must exist, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you're sort of like shifting it out of your path.
Yes.
But it's still there. It's just not, you're not carrying it on your back.
You are not going to experience it because you are not a vibrational match to it anymore. And so you don't have to worry about any of it.
Okay. Then explain this to me. Then if you're, you know, I know what you're saying is true because from, you know, experience, from being a human being. I mean, I know that we carry things with us. So I can see that and believe that, absolutely. But if you're not a vibrational match to something, if you're up here, you know, and you dip up and down and all that, but if you're up here and then you have this negative thing here, you can't be a pilot, whatever, and you go down there to deal with it. I mean, it shouldn't be a match to you if you're up here, if it's down here. So how does it come into your experience then?
Because, well, here's the thing. When it pulls on you, you become a temporary vibrational match to that experience.
You dip.
Yes.
You go down.
So remember when I told you about the going up and down from different states within myself? That's what has to happen temporarily for me to resolve these things within me. And so that's sort of the reality we have to accept when we are wanting to face those lower frequencies.
But you might have learned, you were 3 years old, wanted to be a pilot, someone discouraged you. That stuck with you. But then you grow, you go to school, and you look around and you say, there's all kinds of pilots like me out there.
So then you've shifted it. Then you have shifted it. That's the whole point. So then there's not a problem.
Okay, so that things can get shifted naturally.
Yeah.
And things might never get shifted naturally that you might need to examine.
Yes.
And intentionally, with intent, with focus, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Whatever works for you is amazing. You know?
Yeah, of course. I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
Of course. We all want everyone to be happy. What a great world that would be, right? So if everybody's just following their bliss and doing what they love. Don't you create a roller coaster? I mean, isn't the goal, let's say, first of all, I think the goal should be to make ourselves unhurtable, sort of galvanize ourselves through unconditional love, just to so things don't affect us. We don't take everything personally, right? We can just flow easy through life with this attitude of unconditional love or whatever. But from what you're describing, it sort of makes me feel like it must be a real up and down existence, when you really should be shooting for something, a more consistent, higher vibration, which also in turn brings in more consistently high vibration, positive experiences.
Of course, and this is my goal too. The thing is, though, that the roller coaster already exists within you. I'm not telling you to
get on it and ride it. There's an awesome, huge monster roller coaster in me, but I just, I walk by it. I go to other rides. I don't get on that one.
That's perfectly fine.
All right. But I'm probably missing some thrills. Who knows?
Or you may naturally, life may put you onto that roller coaster sometimes.
Sure. This is true. Yeah. Find yourself on there suddenly.
Because there are many variables also of why these parts of you are pushed forward in different points of time in your life. And that's a whole other conversation. But everything is a big, enormous game that connects to each other and interacts with each other. And so there are many reasons also why, in certain phases of your life, you do not experience what's actually already within you. And certain points of your life, it's coming up to be seen. So, yeah.
Can I ask some questions now?
Yeah.
All right.